Hi, welcome to The Signal. I'm Joe Militzer, and today we have a very special show for you. You know, this is the show about what's trending in St. Louis, and we have a show on the anniversary of Katrina where we're going to talk to one of the people who was there. And he also happens to be one of our top writers for Fox2Now.com. You've seen him with me on the show every week. It's Kevin Held. And Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about your experience in New Orleans during Katrina in 2005?
Yeah. I had been working for the CBS affiliate down there, WWL-TV, since 2003, and I had become a web producer, what I do now. I'd been doing that job since 2004, so I'd been doing that job about 1 year
Yeah.
before, we had Katrina. And every hurricane season is always it's tense, but you a lot of people don't take it seriously because there hadn't been a major, and I'm speaking for myself here, I'm not going to pretend to speak for an entire population, but some people don't take it seriously in the sense that, well, there hadn't been a bad one in a long time. And people would sort of get ready and then they would never go anywhere. And things just always sort of worked themselves out.
Yeah.
Like you'd get raining, you'd get a little bit of light flooding in places, but it sort of worked itself out.
I remember that storm was very strange.
And
because
then,
it definitely, everyone was like, oh, it's a hurricane, but like, is it really going to hit New Orleans?
Right.
And the chances of that aren't large.
It crossed the bottom of the Florida Peninsula.
Yeah.
And the thought was it was going to turn upwards towards the Panhandle. And then it didn't.
Right.
And then it got stronger and stronger and was a Cat 5 briefly. And it finally hit this little town called Burris. It was hyphenated Burris and something else. But if you look at a map of Louisiana, there is a tiny little leg that comes from the southeast of Louisiana, and Burris is down there.
Okay.
And it hit that. That's where the eye hit.
Yeah.
The fear was it would have gone a little bit further west, which actually would have been worse for New Orleans and everybody. Like, think of how, if you see the footage that's airing right now, it would have been worse than that.
Wow.
Because the worst part of a hurricane to be in is in the northeastern quadrant, because that's where the strongest wind and rain and everything is coming. New Orleans being under sea level is basically a giant bowl.
Right.
So, the hurricane hit, and as all that's happening, leaders are saying, it was sort of, there was a slight wait on the evacuation, and then there was an evacuation. Initially, there was going to be no shelter of last resort, and then at the last minute, the Superdome was opened as a shelter of last resort, and I had to have very uncomfortable conversations with random people calling the station who didn't want to leave their homes. And I had to tell them, you have to get to the Superdome. That's where, you will be safe there.
Right.
And as it turns out, going to the Superdome was now, mind you, I was not there personally, nor was I at the convention center, but I was sending people to a level of hell that...
Okay, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
That you wouldn't want to imagine. When the storm did hit, it ripped up the roof. And I say ripped the roof off the dome. It ripped a covering off of the dome. There was, in fact, a hole in the dome. And just a lot of chaos was happening in there. And people were going to the convention center looking for help. Just throngs of people, very little help, very little aid in the immediate aftermath and the early stages of it.
Yeah.
Where
were you?
So we were moved to the Hyatt. Our station got us rooms in the Hyatt. The Hyatt was this, still exists, is a hotel near the Superdome. And they got everybody rooms. They paired us all up into rooms. And then the night before the hurricane was supposed to hit, we were told they don't want us in the rooms.
And this is what TV stations do usually. I mean, we do that with winter stuff
I think
around
so,
here, but-
yes. Like,
Okay.
they believed this was bad enough that it warranted everybody going to a hotel.
Yeah.
So they put us in the Hyatt, had us in rooms, then have everybody come downstairs to this first floor, like, meeting room, like a big meeting room that you would have a, like, conventions or slideshows, business presentations, something like that. And we all slept on the first floor of the building because they didn't trust the safety of people being up
high like
up
that.
high. And as you can see there, the Superdome, like that's the sheeting getting torn off. And I remember I've driven by that Circle store many times, and that's the hotel. That was the Hyatt right there that you saw with the windows blown out.
Yeah.
So I wake up the next morning and all the power's out, and I open the door to this big room we're in, and there's a long hallway, and there's light obviously at the end of the hallway, so like light at the end of the tunnel, and I hear like a thrumming noise, like it almost sounds like a jet engine, like something just hovering over. And I walk to the end of the hallway, and that's when I realize, I get to the end of the hallway, and the Hyatt is this open building with like a giant atrium. It's basically a giant atrium with rooms built around it. All the windows of the hotel are blown out, as you see, and the noise that I'm hearing is the wind passing through the hotel. The hotel had this giant brass art installation hanging from the ceiling. This thing weighs tons.
Yeah.
And it's moving. Now, it's not blowing like a wind chime, but it is moving, and it is hitting, like they're tapping each other.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you do hear a little, you are hearing something. Like from that, I can't totally remember what it was, but at some point, we left the Hyatt, went back to the TV station, which was in the French Quarter, on the outskirts of the French Quarter. The French Quarter was mostly fine in all of this, mostly fine. We spent the night in the French Quarter, in the station in the French Quarter. I got woken up some point the following morning, it seems, and somebody was telling me levees have failed and there is water coming. And we were told to get to the roof of the building.
Wow.
And I don't know what's going on. I'm getting what little stuff I have together, and we literally climb up this little service ladder, every employee at the station.
Yeah.
On top of the roof of this TV station, which is like 2 floors. And we're just standing on the roof, like waiting. Like, I don't know, I'm not knowing what to expect. I don't know if I'm going to see one of those like a wall. No, I don't know if I'm going to see a wall of water coming in any minute, or if I'm going to start seeing it trickle in and then slowly. I don't know what to expect. I'm just like, it's a great deal of uneasiness and tension happening. We're sitting up there, standing up there. I don't know. It seemed like a short time, but it might have been longer before somebody said, there is a clearance, like you have a pathway to drive from the TV station to our broadcast tower across the river if we go now.
Yeah.
And so the entire TV station, the staff that's there, drive caravans from where we parked to across the river to the broadcast tower. And as we're pulling into there, it's like in this dusty area, semi-secluded, but we drive past people who were looting, it seemed like a convenience store. And I just remember looking at these unfortunate people, and they're looking back at us driving by. And it's like, I don't know what to think of them, and I don't think they knew what to think of us. And it just, again, it's like, I don't know what what our safety is, or anything. The tower is like set 50 feet in the air, so you have to go up like many staircases. You get up there and it's cramped because it's just machines lining the walls,
Yeah.
like big vertical tape decks, all sorts of equipment. They must have had 50 or 60 people crammed into this small area.
And you're crammed in there because the water can't
No.
go that high?
Well,
or...
oh yeah, because we didn't know what was going to happen. Again, nobody knows where the water is, where it's coming from, if it's
Yeah.
going to hit here, how high is it going to be? Like there is zero information like that made it to me. At some point, station management was able to make an arrangement with LSU, the state college in Baton Rouge. And the company that owned the TV station made a deal with them that we would come and stay in some of their unoccupied campus housing for a brief period. We did that. I ended up crashing with one of my cousins who was actually attending school there, so I ended up sleeping there. They ended up getting us off-campus housing, like these apartments that really were meant for 2 people.
Yeah.
They put us in there like 6, 8 to a room. So I was sleeping on a cot for about a month.
Wow.
Before any of us like went back, because they kept, once you left, you weren't allowed back into the city or the area for about a month, because they had to, people had to secure things.
Mm-hmm.
And, fortunately, my family had evacuated, and they were reaching out to me to see if I could find out, is our house okay?
Yeah.
And so, and this is something I still, all the numerous things that you can feel guilty about in a situation like this, this was one of the ones that it all took a while to let go.
Yeah.
Or be able to move on with it. But they were asking me, do you know if our house flooded? And so I was relying on Google Maps, like satellite imagery, like thinking I could tell. And I remember I was thinking, no, I don't think so. I don't think we got any water or anything. And then they ended up going back to the house, and we lived in Jefferson Parish, which is the neighboring parish to Orleans Parish. In Louisiana, we call counties parishes. It's whatever. The pumps in Jefferson Parish were turned off, and so a bunch of water just backed up, and so the areas that were near the pumps just got flooded. Like my family's house had like 2 feet of water in it, which is not a lot compared to other people whose whole homes got like 6, 7, 8 feet of water.
Yeah.
But 2 feet of water is enough to ruin
Yeah,
a
ruin
lot.
a lot of stuff in your house.
And just, that's like the house I grew up in was ruined. My mom, bless her heart, was able to clean a lot of that and tear down the sheetrock. That's, if you're from New Orleans, it's like, that. It's like you cut off a certain part of the sheetrock down, and you replace that, and you're replacing carpet and all this other kind of stuff.
Floors and all the...
Right. Some people had their houses elevated, or they knocked the whole house down, rebuilt on an elevated property.
Yeah. But did your family make it out okay?
I mean, it's
And
my
no one got
parents.
injured or...
Nobody was injured there.
Yeah.
Like none of my immediate family members were injured.
Were you guys broadcasting
So
the whole time, or...
WWL TV was off air for a brief period while we moved to. Hang on, we were broadcasting from the broadcast tower.
Yeah.
Like it's just literally 2 office chairs that our anchors or reporters are sitting at, talking into one single camera, and we'd cut to whatever tape we shot and could throw in there while other people went to Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So you had people at the broadcast tower, people in Baton Rouge. We eventually made a deal with the local PBS affiliate,
Uh-huh.
and we're broadcasting from there,
Okay.
and we're able to sort of organize and run shows from there. And yeah, we had that operation going for, I think, 30 plus days. And when we went back, it was eerie
Yeah.
how much of a ghost town the French Quarter was in general. And then you're driving around seeing everything else vacant, but like everything's left behind. I stayed, I ended up having to move back in with my parents into my old childhood room.
Is this because your place was flooded or
No,
what?
the apartment I was in was a second floor apartment. The apartment structure that I was in was fine, but some places started raising their rents,
Oh yeah.
and I was unfortunately caught up in that.
Yeah.
You know, that's it compared to what a lot of other people were dealing with, having to live in a FEMA trailer or having other things of their life tossed into complete upheaval. You know, that problem is pretty low on the totem pole. But living back home and working while you see everything as you see everything unravel, and how you start to learn more about how this failed, that failed, why did the levees fail?
Yeah.
You're dealing with conspiracy theorists who think they were dynamited,
Uh-huh.
and you're trying to say, no, it was literally a building failure. And you
Yeah.
learn things like scouring,
Okay.
how like when water's rushing in, it takes up the bottom of the dirt and the mud and everything else and scours it away.
Uh-huh.
And then it just makes what's under the wall weak. And if
Oh,
you
man.
build if you build an eye wall, I learned if you build an eye wall and not a T-wall, the eye wall is more prone to failure, and so it will tip
Okay.
or go one way or the other, as opposed to a T-wall, which is less likely to fail.
So you
you-
made
you-
it out of there alive, and
Yeah.
your family's okay, and then you moved to St. Louis.
I moved to
'Cause-
St. Louis in February of 2008 because as you're working through that, it's every day
Yeah.
is stories of hardship and misery and a lot of depressing things. Like people, like I used to think there were problems in the city or in the area before, but it's just the hurricane turns it on its head. And it's not a situation of, oh, we had it so good, because it wasn't the case. It was, well, now you have no foundation to start on, and you have to rebuild something, but where are you getting stuff? Where's the assistance? Where's the help coming from? And so I started to. This is incredibly cliche, but I started to feel like I was losing part of myself living there and working there. I had to go out and shoot photos
Uh-huh.
every weekend, like make photo galleries. Nothing where there was water. Like the water had all gone. The water had mostly gone away. But I was driving to throughout New Orleans, throughout other parishes, taking photos of homes that were abandoned.
Yeah.
And like the grass is 3-4 feet high. They've still got the spray painted X with the numbers and the symbols on them. And I'm going around taking photos of this, and it eventually just eats away at you.
Yeah, it's
And
depressing,
there's
for
something missing. There's just a piece missing. And so I had to go.
And then 25 years later, you've
20.
gone 20 years later. Sorry.
Yeah.
You've gone back. Is it different?
I mean, I've
recovered?
gone
Is it all-
back. I've gone back multiple times since then. Like I went back in in 2008. I went back in I've been back almost every
Yeah.
year since.
But have you seen it
And-
recover though?
There are a lot of changes, and like there's places that are more open. Like instead of every lot is a house, there's an occasional space where there's no house. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an empty home
Yeah.
or an empty building. I hate painting a picture of, oh, it's still in stage one or whatever, or oh no, everything's back to normal. The normal is different, and
Okay.
and I haven't been there and around there long enough to fairly give an accurate depiction of that. But when I think of the recovery process for New Orleans, I think of what St. Louis is going through with the tornado.
I was wondering if there was
And
parallels.
So,
there.
but what I would say is
Yeah.
there is no, for St. Louis, it's like we're in it, like we're in it.
Right. This is happening right now.
But everybody outside is going to look at St. Louis, and at some point, after enough nice things have happened or positive things have happened, everybody outside of St. Louis is going to say, they're back,
right.
they're good to go. And that's not the case.
Well, we've heard about New Orleans.
And that's
and
listen,
it's not
you
the
can
case.
still go to the French Quarter. You can still do all the tourist things. You
Yeah.
can still there's still lots of nice things there. It's just different. If you talk to certain people, the education system has changed drastically. There's more charter schools, and you can weigh in. There's whatever on that. There's fewer resources allocated for this or that. There's more. I'm trying to not name a company. Rental?
The U-Haul? No.
No, the home
oh,
where like what do we
the
call that?
Airbnbs?
Well, I didn't want to say that, but
Well, you can-
but
Short-term
rentals. Thank
with the
you.
free RBOs,
The short-term
Airbnbs, and
rentals.
that kind of thing.
There's
I mean, that's
issues
the trend
there,
we've seen here
and
too.
yes,
But your lessons for St. Louis from New Orleans
is
especially after the tornado and a few other
rely
things.
is I would just stress rely on each other, and I'm not saying don't ever expect help from the government or anybody like that. You should, and we should, but be reliant on each other and help out however you can and do whatever you can. Like that, there's like a phrase called mutual aid. It's like
Yeah.
whatever you can donate that is a direct aid to somebody, to some group, that that money is it's going directly to this. Like, oh, we do meals for people. I know where that's going.
Right.
We hand out tarps to people, and we help install or we help clean out homes that have been ruined or whatever. We take care of that. Like,
And we've
it's,
seen a massive amount of donations after
Yes.
the tornado, and but that focus is off, but there's still damage
Right,
down there, and
right. And
those
you
red,
have to
and
make
you mentioned
sure-
the red X's on on those buildings, and are they ever going to come back, and what goes in their place?
right.
You know,
And
are we
that's
gonna
the
have
other
empty
thing
lots,
to keep
like-
that's the other thing to keep an eye on is
Yeah.
that infrastructure, because with New Orleans everything is above sea level, so it's like all the telephone lines, everything has to go up. We can't go under. It's just it's the task of recovering and rebuilding is, I'm not breaking any news here, it's long and it is difficult and it is a task.
Yeah.
It's just a task that has to be done. And as long as you can just look at it as this thing that has to be done,
Uh-huh.
it feels a little more doable. Like, it's not this unconquerable mountain. It's hard. But you have to take delight in the small victories. If you get your power back, celebrate that. If you get something, if somebody comes and helps fix your roof, delight in that. If you get a tarp to cover your roof, like, enjoy every little thing that you can along the way, so you don't fall into a trap of hopelessness.
Yeah.
Or confusion, or whatever fog is gonna happen. Like, and yeah, PTSD is a real thing, a very real thing.
I know we've talked about this a lot, so yeah,
You
can definitely see
like,
that with people who go through situations.
If you need, like, there are numbers and there are crisis lines. I know we've put those numbers out before. Yeah. It's a real thing, and you should seek that out, and it's okay to talk about it. Like, it's okay to talk about it and discuss, and yeah.
It is. Well, thank you for joining me on the signal here today.
Oh, shoot. We ran through the entire thing without a single...
We got a whole other show back
I had a whole
here.
lineup here, and it was just the Kevin Held story hour. All right.
And as it should be.
Okay.
That is one heck of a story. So,
all right.
Maybe we'll put together another show. Who knows? We got enough material.
All right.
So thank you, and join us here next week on the show about what's trending in St. Louis, The Signal.